Hey, it's David. Today I want to show you how to make the baffle on the stock Duke exhaust removable. In the previous video I showed you how to actually cut out the baffle from the exhaust, and there'll be a link up here how to do that. In another video you'll know, and if you've watched my videos you'll know, that I like to shorten the exhaust, which is what I've done here. So I've stubbied that, and if you want to know how to stubby it, there'll be another link up here on that. But the question is asked, if I do either of these two things, what if I want to put the baffle back in? And the answer is, it's possible. It's not that easy unless you have access to a welder or you know someone who can weld, and the chances are you can do one of those two things. So what I've done is I've taken the baffle that I cut out, I've taken a piece of tube the same diameter as the cutter that I used when I drilled out the exhaust, and I've chopped a small bit off the end of it, and I've welded that little piece of tube on to the end of the baffle. Now, if you look closely at the baffle, what you will see is the pipe is straight here, but where it comes out at the end, it's actually at an angle. There's a bend in the pipe here. So I've cut a straight piece of pipe, but what you will see, if you look closely here, you will see that this is closer than this. So you could ideally cut the pipe at the same angle as this if you wanted a really good result. You could actually bring it forward and cut it level, but I don't think it's necessary. It would be ideal if you used a piece of stainless pipe, because this is stainless. The problem, I've used a mild steel here, and that means it's probably going to rust, which means I will need to put some exhaust paint on it. I haven't gotten it at the moment, so I'm going to do that another time. Big and removable, I can do it any time I want. So what I've had to do is I've needed to weld it, grind the weld down here, then I've ground the outside here, and I've ground this inside to make it nice and smooth, and so that it fits easily in, so I can actually move it in and out. Because before there are, and there still are, see there's a little bit tight spots at certain angles, but the angle I wanted at, so that the slope of this matches the slope of this, so that lies flat as it does on the stock exhaust. And with that in that position, the piece of tube that I've cut now sits down inside here, and this now looks like any removable DB killer you might get on a normal exhaust. Now you can see there are different ways of making the pipes on these DB killers. They tend to be crimped at the end or closed off at the end with holes in the side. This has got a hole here. You could cut this shorter if you wanted to make it louder. You could drill holes in it if you wanted to make it louder. There's all sorts of things you could do. I'm leaving it stock, but again, it's going to be removable, so I can do any of those things anytime I want. Now, the way these always fit in is there's a hole in there, and a bolt is put through there, and you put a nut on this side, and that holds it in place. So that's what we want to replicate here, is on the back side of the exhaust, where it's not visible, I'm just going to drill a hole down through here, punch it all the way through into here. Then I'm going to take this, line it up exactly where I want it, in there, and then I'm going to drill through that hole and drill into this. That will allow me to put a nut and bolt in there. Now, this gap is quite small, and it's normally a bit of an issue in lining the nuts up on these. You can weld them in place. If you were to make the hole in here a bit bigger, you could weld that nut in place, but that's all a bit fiddly. So for now, I'm probably going to leave it with just a loose nut, like many of them are, but we'll see how we go. So taking it square off the exhaust, it's going to make a judgment about where I want the hole to go. Don't want it too close here. I don't want it too far here because then it could miss the actual DB killer. And I want it to come down square on the side, so I think about there it's going to be right. Stainless can be quite difficult to drill through, so let's see how much luck we have with this. Not much, it appears. Drilling through stainless is really difficult, so it's taken me quite a long time, but I've now drilled all the way through. I've stepped up to the size of drill bit I need for the bolt I want to hold it in place. So that's all the way through. Now I need to put this in and get it set up for how I want it. You only get one chance at this, so take as much time as you need. And what you're looking to do is just to make a mark on here so that we can center punch that and drill it out. Now what I should have done was done it when I did the initial drill through, but unfortunately I broke my smaller drill bit when I did that. If it ends up slightly in the wrong place, you can always enlarge this hole a little bit so that you can move it around to the right place when you actually come to install it and tighten the drill down. The hole will always overlise a little bit on these when you're punching through sheet steel. So cone bit will help cure that. This is where we will need to just clean out inside there, and we will eventually be slipping a nut down in there. And this is where you will always find these are really difficult. What I'm also going to have to do is to shorten this bolt down, because what I need to do now is to make this hole big enough to get this bolt all the way through it. Don't want to make it too big, but I do want to be able to get that down in there. But I also don't want it too big that I can't get my rubber grommet in. At the moment I think it's still too small. My rubber grommet is about 9mm. Could comfortably go up to 10mm. And my hole at the moment is just under 9. Probably about right. Might want to get a file in there and just clean that up a bit. Right, so that'll be a good seal on that. Might need Just a little bit of clean up on there because that's quite tight still. We want it tight, but so now we want to get this lined up. We need a little bit of deburring. Same in here. But my next job is just to take the end off this. Now with my bolt shortened down, let's see if we can do the juggling act needed to actually get this in. Now I can tell you in advance, having done these things before, is that this is not an exercise that you want to repeat very often. And it certainly makes a big difference if you can get the nut welded inside. That will make your life so much easier. It's just, you know, makes a massive difference. But it's certainly possible. It's just a little bit fiddly. So I'm just going to fiddle to show it can be done. And you can imagine you can't really do this on the bike too well. I mean, you can, but it's going to be painful. It's just fiddly. It's not difficult. It's just fiddly. There we go. Now, so I didn't actually get this inside lined up properly when I was drilling the hole. I should have taken a little bit more time. Worst case, I could just take sander and run it across there and flatten that out so you wouldn't notice. But if we take our blind grommet, so this is a sort of a rubber grommet that has this side filled. I want it to be a tight fit because I want to prevent sort of as much gas leaking from here as I can. And there we go. So there. So now we have a removable baffle for the stock exhaust. And the only thing you'd really see is if you look down in there, you will see the extra ring and the nut. But that's what you'll see inside the majority of removable DB killers. So, yeah, perhaps be a little bit more careful lining this up than I was. So there we have it. A removable DB killer, removable baffle, however you prefer to look at it, in a stock Duke 390, 125, 250, whatever. They always use the same exhaust. It's a fairly simple job. It's a little bit fiddly getting that in and out, and drilling through stainless is painful, but not really that hard. Getting it lined up would have been nice. I really probably will get in there with a grinder in a minute and just flatten that off so that it looks square. But aside from that, it worked really well. I'm really happy with it. And don't forget to check out my other videos on the Duke 390 exhaust, including making them shorter, debaffling and so forth. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you guys soon.